Here's what I know for a fact. 3 years of water bills that don't add up. And I'm not the only one. This isn't specific or singular just to myself here in Palacios, Texas. A rate hike, then another rate hike, sound familiar? Stacked right on top of it. A city that quietly told its own council in writing that it was handing, I say handing, its water and sewer department to a private contractor while keeping the people who send you the bill and flip the switch on your water right there on the city payroll. Those are the facts. And now, a stack of state records I've spent the last several months and really years pulling apart. 600, let me say that again, 670 chemicals, test results, 2 separate Texas Commission on Environmental Quality dockets, and a body of water outside my own backyard that has been sitting on the state's official list of impaired waterways since 1998. I'm Richard Wolfe, and this is the Wolfe Digital Tribe, and this is what's in the water. Digital Tribe investigative reporting out of Palacios, Texas. Palacios, Texas, we call it here. And Matagorda County. No sponsors telling me what I can and can't say. No editor upstairs softening the language. Just records, receipts, and the people this actually happens to. This is your first time with us. I want to say thank you for joining us. And I really mean that. Thank you for joining. Thank you for giving me your time and your attention to what matters. Not only to me, this doesn't affect just me. In effect, this is a microism of, I believe, a state and national crisis running. The deflection and saying transparency means nothing. But with that said, thank you for joining me. If this is your first time today, and if you've been if you've been with this story since the beginning, thank you for sticking with it. Because, and even to my critics, thank you for sticking with it. You obviously want to hear something, and I'm okay. I welcome critics. If you got to have thick skin in this business. And so, thank you for sticking with it. To everyone that supports this channel and supports me and my friends and my colleagues, because today we go somewhere the reporting hasn't been before. 25 minutes is all I need of your time, if that. But 670 lab results, 2 state dockets, 1 creek this whole town is named after. Let's get into it. So let me bring everyone up to speed, because context is everything, not only in this story, but in every story that's unfolded here in this here in our town and county. And especially a story like this one. For almost 3 years, the water bills at 2 addresses I know personally. My previous residence, which was located at the church apartment, and my relatives' home residents, my mother, have shown not only in this story, but in every story that's unfolded here in this here in our town and county, and especially a story like this one. For almost 3 years, the water bills at two addresses I know personally. My previous residence, which was located at the church apartment, and my relatives' home residence, my mother, have shown charges that don't line up with any consumption pattern I can document. We've had threatened disconnections and disconnections, actual disconnections, and all of it on a timeline. And this timeline tracks almost exactly with when I started asking public questions about this city. I'm not asking you or anyone else to take my word for that time. I'm asking you to look at the paper trail the same way I've been building it, piece by piece for months. Piece one, the City of Palacios' own adopted budget, the one the council actually voted on, sitting right now on the city's own website, public record for anyone to look at and to pull it, says in plain English, and I quote, the water and wastewater department will become privatized and ran by a contractor, end quote. But here's the part that actually matters. And it's the part most people skip past. The city did not hand off everything. The front desk staff stayed. The office manager stayed. The customer service representatives who take your payment and decide whether water gets shut off has stayed. Even Galvin is there still. Tammy McDonald and Donna, she's wonderful. Miss Donna, I'm not even calling her Miss Donna, Donna. They all stayed. So right there on the city's right there sitting on the city payroll, only the day-to-day operations of the actual pipes, the plant, the system that went into a contractor or went to a contractor. And you might ask yourself, why does that split matter to you? Because it means when a bill goes out wrong or a disconnect notice hits your front door, that is not some outside company's call. That is a city employee on a city computer, run a city billing system. The contractor runs the pipes, the city runs the bill, so let's keep that distinction. Please keep that in your mind today, because it's going to matter later in today's episode, and it's going to matter a lot more in the weeks ahead. Let's talk about piece two. Who's actually doing this contract? Two names keep surfacing over and over in the budget line items and the check registers. I've pulled LSPS Solutions out of Victoria, Texas, run by a man named Lynn Short with his son, Thomas Short. Anyway, just kind of odd names, but Anyway, as Vice President of Public Records shows, LSPS was first brought on for something fairly narrow. Public Records shows LSPS was first brought on for something fairly narrow, and that's fire hydrant testing and rehabilitation, a contract signed back in November of 2022. And then there's JZJ Utilities Management, a name the city's own most recent budget for this current fiscal year names directly $72,000 a year for water, another $72,000 for sewer, both listed as, and I quote, professional license requirement. And that's $144,000 a year, every year for licensing fees alone. To a contractor, most ratepayers in this town have probably never heard of. And really, it's from what I can see, it's a one-man operation, by the way. So let's talk about piece three. And this is the one I want every single person listening to sit with me for a second. A $2.378 million debt for water meters at 4.794% interest. And in the very first year of payments on record, the interest payments was actually larger than the principal payment. I think about what that means. That's not how you structure a loan to pay it. That's how you structure a loan to collect interest slowly for a long time. I also want to flag something from the council record itself because it's the kind of moment that tends to get buried in the minutes and forgotten. So back in April of 2023, a local business owner stood up at the podium during the public comment section and told council directly that her meter and the city's own billing software had charged her unfairly. The city manager's response on that record was that the meter was bad and had been replaced. The business owner pushed back from the audience, in her words, not mine, that this was a software issue, not a hardware issue. And at least one council member on the record said he didn't buy the staff's explanation either. Think about that. That was in April of 2023. Later that same meeting, the council passed a 15% water and wastewater rate increase. That's a 6-to-1 voting. Look at their voting records, guys. It matters. So that's where we've been. Rate hikes stacked on rate hikes, a quiet privatization that kept billing decisions in-house while handing operations out. A licensing agreement worth over $100,000 a year to a contractor people have never heard about or never met, and a $2.4 million meter debt that's front-loaded on interest, not principal. And today we go somewhere the story hasn't been before. The actual chemistry of the water coming out of the tap and the state paperwork sitting on top of it. Thank you for joining me. We're going to stay tuned for the next segment, podcast episode for the What's in the Water here in Palacios, Texas. Thank you for joining me, and stay tuned for our next episode on What's in the Water, Palacios, Texas. I'm Richard Wolfe with Wolfe Digital Tribe. Love you guys. Check it out. Stay tuned for the next episode here on the Wolfe Digital Tribe. This is your sneak peek into What's in the Water. This is the third segment, starting from the third, and we're going to work our way back up to the first. Richard Wolfe, look forward. Stay tuned for the next episode right here.